Olazaba, and I am a graduate student in the Applied Economics program at the University of Illinois. I also have the pleasure of serving as a research assistant at UIC Chicago's Urban Labs, where we are working on evaluating assisted learning platforms as a cost-effective remediation policy. I'm excited to be with you all this morning and to present this workshop about one of my favorite topics, which is workflow. It will be brief, but I hope a good use of our time together, so we'll get started right away. So first objective for today is to think about what an ideal research workflow would be, and then to explore a few digital tools that I myself use and have found helpful to improve my workflow. And to get started and just to set as a baseline what I mean by workflow, that's the process of getting things done and getting something that's important for you and critical as part of your work, and which for us in this fellowship is your research. So with that definition in mind, I want you to think for a couple minutes about your experience thus far as a fellow. And if everyone could go on mute, I really appreciate it. Thank you. So think for a couple minutes about your experience with the research project. Everything from generating ideas to getting the proposal ready and now to gathering data, getting ready for the symposium. How has that experience been for you? Has it been flowing? Has it been like clockwork, or have you been getting stuck? Or is there parts that have been frustrating for yourself or in working as a team, especially like in different time zones? Think about all the things that have been going on and either jot them down on a piece of paper, or if you it's so inclined, feel free to drop them in the chat about what's going well with your project and what you think could be going better. It can be all 3 minutes. Thank you, especially the brave soul that shared in the chat, and for everyone that was meditating quietly on this. I hope it was a helpful reflection time for you all. I've seen here in the chat that some folks are feeling that things are going really well, that they're managing work efficiently, that they're cooperating well. Other folks are experiencing some communication issues and issues of just balancing so many priorities, whether with school, home life, and the research project. So this is a helpful context that I wanted to ground us in for this workshop, that there's no magic tool, or else I would have already bought it to make you more productive. But it's like being really anchored about what matters most for you to get done, and ensuring that you have your priorities straight so that you can figure out what tools will help you tackle those priorities, both at school, with work, and at home. And when we're talking about research workflow, we're really trying to save ourselves time and carve out time to do what matters most, which is to read, to write, and to be in community with other researchers and policymakers. And if you don't make time for that, there's no tool that's going to help you publish something or make something that's worth reading or discussing. And what we're going to talk about today is part of the research workflow process, but I really have been stealing a lot from writers and how they think about their writing process. And this really helped me tackle things when things get stuck, whether it's because of procrastination, frustration that I'm not working well with others, and just trying to figure out how to get unstuck and get back into a process that's flowing and working for everybody. So at the beginning, we said we were going to talk about an ideal workflow process. So again, this is the ideal. This are the principles for me personally on what I'm aiming for to do. And every day out of the week, emergencies come up. So sometimes we fall short of this ideal, but ultimately this is like my North Star for what the research workflow process should be like and what I strive for. And ultimately, when making decisions about what tools to choose, this is going to guide whether or not to even adopt a tool. So first and foremost is thinking about why I'm doing this. And my belief is that writing is thinking, and in thinking about this research process of trying to get this project done in a timely manner, I need to get writing as soon as possible, whether or not I even have a topic. Like as soon as I start writing, like it's going to find me before I even find it. And some of these ideas are taken already from time-tested work from Booth and others in their suggestions to creative work. And if you click on here, I think you'll be able to see some of these works that you could read later at your own time. And again, in thinking about if this is what I believe, that writing is thinking, and the sooner I get writing, the sooner I get clear about what this project is and how I'm going to get it done, I then start orienting myself towards these principles about getting things done. And there was this whole little research paper discussing this this approach to having the science behind the stress-free productivity hack. And later on, we'll go into more like tools of how this can get done. But ultimately, you're creating like a second brain for yourself. And many of you may already have this approach in your practice, but you're containing things and then delegating them to where they should be. Ultimately, you have this inbox and you're trying to figure out, does this require something from me? Should I be taking action? Is it worth keeping? Should I archive it or should I throw it away? And then if I'm not going to throw it away, I'm going to reference it later for my future work or for my future self. So then figuring out where in this flow chart are all these things that I'm collecting for my research going to go in the trash, in my archives, or into my action plan, which is my project plan to get myself going. So a lot of the time that you'll be spending, I don't know if you've seen my cursor, but it's in this area, trying to figure out what to put in the trash or in your archives, and then how to work with your team to get your project plan underway. And again, going back to these principles, we're doing this to spend more time reading the literature to figure out what to build on, and then to finally get to work and structuring your outlines and to getting to your writing practice, which hopefully is something that you're doing routinely and not just leaving it to the last minute. And then if all of this is happening, you earn your vacation, you earn your time away from work, and you're not feeling stressed or that you're dropping, dropping any deadlines. And ultimately, if this ideal workflow process is flowing, you're being productive, happy, healthy, and at peace with what you're getting done. So now, like, the meat and potatoes of the workshop are these cool tools. And again, the tools in and of themselves don't do the work. But I chose these because they are most aligned to these principles that I hope to embody in the kind of tools that make my workflow practice flow. And the first thing is like a simple to-do list. I use this app called Todoist just because I don't like keeping paper. So I keep everything online. But more than the app itself, it's just this process of, after I'm clear about what my priorities are, like what do I need to do, what is getting done, and what is done, and just pushing it through this, like, they call it a Kanban chart. And in this link, you could read more about this process, but ultimately, it's once you're very clear about all the things you're throwing in the trash and things that you can archive, and you have your priorities straight, this is going to keep you very focused about what is getting done and how you're staying productive. And outside of just figuring out what's important and what's your priority, it's like, now, how are you keeping track of everything that you're reading and doing? I used to use Evernote, but now I've adopted this app called Obsidian because I think it's been really helpful for me in making connections about all the things I'm reading and trying to find gaps in the literature and trying to just be much more prolific in writing. And this has been a pretty sweet tool. And also it just stays all in your desktop. So you don't have to depend on paying to having someone else's cloud to keep it with you. And I definitely would recommend just looking at it. But again, the purpose of this is to have a second brain that you're not keeping anything in your head. You're either throwing it in the trash, you're archiving it, or you're putting it into your project plan. And again, you're going to be reading a lot. And I'm not sure, again, these are all preferences for each unique person's working style. But I enjoyed this app called Sotero. And it's been really helpful for me to make sure I keep my sources straight and keep them aligned to, like, if you look to the left here where it says my library, keep all these sources aligned to the particular project that I'm working on. And this is just a screenshot from the website, but it would be classes or the actual paper there. And then the cool thing I like about this is they have these tags so you can get an idea of the kind of themes of the things that you've been reading and how maybe these would inspire you to look down a different path. And if you take anything away from this workshop, I hope if you don't even have an action plan all planned out, if you have at least a backup plan. So in case your computer crashes or your dog eats your research, like, where's the one source of truth? I keep everything in the cloud. So either Dropbox or Box, but I would definitely recommend that you all have everything backed up and your directory in the cloud. So in short, there's no right or wrong way in doing the workflow as long as it works for you and you get things done. And this is going to be an iterative process. You're going to use some things, test them out for a couple of weeks and see whether or not it's helping you stay in flow or if you're just procrastinating and getting stuck with getting work done. So you're going to just commit to at least a couple things and test them out. And my recommendation would be definitely the backup plan and having your things in the cloud or in an external hard drive. And then deciding how are you going to prioritize what you're working on and how are you going to be taking in the materials. Where's your inbox? Is it physical? Is it online? And where are you deciding to put into your archive, into your second brain, or into the trash? So with the time remaining, we're going to use my source of inspiration with it, which is Professor Myman's handout that I based this workshop on. and deciding what 1 to 2 things you're going to do to improve your research project to make sure either the project or the process is much more efficient and it's getting you a sense of flow, improving your communication with your teammates, or helping you stay organized that you know exactly what's coming next. So you could choose either to work on your backup plan, figuring out where you're going to be archiving your things, whether it's in an external hard drive or in the cloud, or you could be working on your delegation plan with where you're keeping all your inbox and your outbox. How are you organizing your project? Is it in a to-do online tracker, or is it on a simple Google sheet? And figuring out what works well for you as an individual, and then what would work best for you, your team, to make sure that, given that you all are in very different time zones, can stay in touch asynchronously without having to constantly chase people down and figure out where things are. So I'm not sure if you could click on here from your end, but if not, I'll just drop this link in the chat. And I'll leave you with that. And I'll hand it right back over to Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you all so much. Do you have any questions? Please raise your hand if you have any questions with this workshop. Okay, we have one question from Fayaz. You can take it away.
Thank you very much for the workshop. I have a good question. You say you use one of your sources called Obsidian. What do you use that for again?
Sure. Obsidian, so that's like my my thought catcher. So anytime I'm taking notes, I'm putting it in there. And so whether I'm reading an article or I'm attending a seminar, like my notes are going in there. The next thing is I'll drop that link in the chat. It's in Markdown. So I know you all are learning how to use R. So it's very simple text, and it also has its own like mobile device. So it's kind of like if you've used Evernote, it's like a free version of Evernote but done in Markdown, and it takes a little bit of time to like get it set up. But for me, it's been super helpful. And one, just making connections about what I'm reading, because I've been using this to try to help me find gaps in literatures to just try to generate more research ideas.
Thank you very much.
For sure.
Thank you so much for this amazing workshop. It went really, really well, and I hope that you all were able to take something away from this. And we'll just quickly go over the symposium that's on April 2nd. We have one more meeting after this to really go over everything that happens with the symposium and just the format of it. And with that being said, Abigail, you can take it away with sharing your screen whenever you're ready.